If it resonates with you when I say I'm doing too much, I've taken on too much, I'm doing for other people, and you have just taken on more and more and more and more of your partner's responsibilities, it is a terrible way to think. You can't go further. You can't do better. You weren't meant to be this busy. You weren't meant to be doing all these things. So here's what I did. Hey, what's going on? Boo, we have so much to talk about. I feel like my life has been hijacked by the Hot Mess Express. Like, I'm just going to be honest. I don't feel like I know what way is up. I just can't catch up. I feel like I'm not showing up. I feel like I just want to throw up. I'm not trying to make a rhyme. Like, literally all I want to do is glow up, and I need to grow up. Like, I can't stop. This house that we're renting right now looks like a bunch of frat boys have lived here for the summer. Our business projections for the last quarter, I found out last week, we were off by 50%, down 50% from what we thought we were going to hit. And that didn't make any sense to me because I am working longer hours than ever before. I'm working like 12 and 14 hours, feeling sorry for myself, also feeling like I'm disappointing my friends and my family members because I'm not showing up for them. I'm not available the way that I want to be. That is a priority for me. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, what in the heck is going on?
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
So today, I am going to tell you how this happened. And it's a pattern that I've repeated in the past. It's a pattern that I know I am susceptible to. And I'm also going to share with you what I am going to do to fix this, because I've fixed it before and I can fix it again, but I have to identify that it starts with me. And that's a really important lesson I think you're going to take away from a lot of this is when things go wrong, it's so human nature to want to point the finger at everybody else. But when we do that, it just makes everybody else defensive, for one thing. And you also avoid your personal accountability. Whereas when you reflect on, like, okay, first, like, what is my role in all of this? It helps you to grow. It helps you to see where your blind spots are. It helps turn, these massive mistakes, what can feel like failures, into learning opportunities. And I have some serious learning to do. So I'm going to share in this episode, like, what's going on in our world this week. I'm also going to share the framework that I've used in the past and I'm using right now to straighten the ship, to help us also understand why it's so helpful to have an anchor person, what not to do when you go to a cocktail party, how to tell yourself a better lie. That's a fun one. And how to get the people in your life to pick up the slack if they need to do that. This is a major revelation that I've had. If you have something that you struggle with, I don't care how great your therapist was, you're always going to have to keep it in check. So if you've ever had an addiction or something you've had to overcome, something that's been troublesome for you, you kind of have to keep it in check. And one of those things for me is my tendency to take on too much. And you might be like this too, where you like that feeling of like, I'm so busy, and it's almost like an adrenaline rush, right? Like it's a dopamine hit. Like you've got enough projects and it's exciting. And so, energy begets energy, and you've got a jam-packed day, and you're just like never idle, because being idle feels uncomfortable. For me, it does. And that's something I'm also working on in therapy. We'll talk about therapy later. But I noticed that I don't always know that I'm just about to take on too much. And it feels like, oh, this is the right amount of busy. And then my idea, I get excited about a new idea and I take that on without taking something off. And I'm usually pretty good about this, but I would say, probably every 4 or 5 years, I've noticed this pattern in myself that I have gone too far again, and I've taken on too much again. And I have become unaware of the fact that it's too much. I start taking things back from other people, or saying, oh, you know what? It won't take me long. I'll just do that. I'll do that. Listen, I can just do that. Because a big part of, and this part, I don't know how much you'll be able to relate to. Maybe you will. Because for me, my business is also like, I'm the brand. Do you know what I mean? So there's certain things where it's like, yeah, but that's going to be a reflection of me. So I need to see it. But at a certain point, if I have to see everything, the brand can't grow. The business can't grow. People that work with me can't grow if I have to see everything. So yeah, the brand is me and it's a reflection of me, but I have to bring on people who, no, it's not that I have to bring on people. It's I personally need to trust that the people I have around me understand my brand, understand what I would say, what I wouldn't say, what represents us, what I'm comfortable with, what I'm not comfortable with, what I stand for, the integrity, all of those things. And I just have to trust them. And I have to let go of a lot of things. I've gotten to a tipping point. It happened this week. And I'm going to do a whole breakdown of this on our business podcast, Build Your Tribe. I'll link to the Build Your Tribe, how to subscribe to Build Your Tribe in our, description, in the show notes, because this is going to be a really important episode for anyone who's an entrepreneur. But I'm going to be very honest and tell you that last quarter, our projections for our business were off by 50%. They were lower by 50% than our projections. And we did a big team meeting to go over that and go like, why did this happen? And what we discovered is it happened because my attention to a couple of different promotions in social media had dropped. Like I wasn't promoting this thing. And so because of that, we were 50% off. And for a couple of days, I was like down on myself and like, okay, I've just got to work harder. Like I need to be more disciplined. I need to have that all scheduled out. I need, to have my assistant remind me that I need to promote a lot heavier, a lot sooner. I want to get people excited about it, all these things. And then I just started thinking about it and I'm like, no. I'm trying to rescue the business by saying I'll do more promotions. No, that's not what we teach. It's not a way to sustain a business. Social media is not a way to sustain a business. Social media should be used to further promote your business, right? But you personally don't have to organically do that. I mean, we teach advertising. So why have I put us in a position team-wise where I become the weakest link, right? Because your team is only as strong as its weakest link. And I've become the weakest link because I'm saying like, no, I can do that. No, let's pay an agency. Let's run ads so that I don't have to sell, so that I don't have to promote, so that I don't have to show up because it's scheduled to show up. I like showing up because it's authentic and it's real and it's what I want to say and it's what I'm thinking about and it's what I care about. And it's, I don't want to, I'm not going to do that. And that's me recognizing that I've gotten to this place where, my addiction to being busy and always being in motion and like never stopping, it can go too far. And so while Brett was gone for these last couple of days and I had these big plans, I'm like, I'm going to go roller skating. I'm going to go do a workout with a girlfriend. I'm going to go to this girls' night out. I'm going to go take an exercise class. I'm going to go shopping. Like, who do I think I am? I'm going to go shopping. Like, like I'm a lady who lunches or something. I mean, that sounds so dreamy, but why don't I do that? Why did I wake up every day and work for 12 to 14 hours? That's crazy. Doing things that I shouldn't be doing things that I know need to be delegated. Maybe they even have been delegated, but then I've said, oh, let me just do that. Yeah, that won't take me long, And so I feeling bad about myself, knowing like thinking I'm the reason why. Well, I am the reason why we were off by 50%, but also recognizing that I have to change that because I shouldn't be the weakest. I've got to empower my team and I have to do the things I teach our students, which is you've got to delegate. You've got to have these systems in place. So here's what I did. Then I sat down and I encourage you to do this too. Okay. Whether you're an entrepreneur or not, if it resonates with you, when I say I'm doing too much, I've taken on too much, I'm doing for other people, this can be true for you if you are a college student. This can be true for you if you're newly married and you have just taken on more and more and more and more of your partner's responsibilities because you're like, I'll just do it. I do it better, so I'll just do it. It is a terrible way to think. It undermines the confidence of the people around you, whether it's your spouse or your kids or your roommate or the people you work with. And it's not going to help you. And you eventually become resentful of it and you become stagnant. You become resentful of it and you can't grow. You can't go further. You can't do better because you're a human being and you weren't meant to be this busy. You weren't meant to be doing all these things. So here's what I did, and I encourage you to do the same. Okay. So again, even if you're a mom and you've got like little ones at home that just, need to be doing more of the chores, or it's, you and your husband and, or you and your wife, and you have just taken on far more of the responsibilities. And it's been decades of this. And now you're like, well, it's just my thing. It's just what I do. Listen, anything and everything can be improved upon. But it starts by taking inventory. So here's what I've done is I sat down and I went over every single tiny little thing that I regularly do. Everything. And when I made this list, I'm like, this is redonkulous. Girl, what are you doing? Like, you are responsible for this situation and it's not gorgeous. So we need to fix this. And I looked at all the things and I'm like, so many of these, I just tell myself this lie that no one can do it better and I can do it very quickly. But I'm notorious for taking something that should be quick and easy and making it more complicated, making it more intricate and adding more steps and trying to make it better and better and better, but not turning it over to somebody else who's probably better at doing it. So make a master list of everything that you do. And I mean, whether we're talking about things in your home and it's chores and it's things for your kids and things for your spouse or whatever, just make that master list and start there. And then look at the things where you're like, I absolutely love doing this and it makes sense for me to do this. Then look at the things you're like, I hate doing this and someone else other than me should be doing this, could be doing this, and needs to do this. And then you just reorganize who's doing what. For myself personally, and for those of you who, maybe you have to do this in your business, for me, it meant like realizing there's a whole lot of people we need to bring on our team, because when you do delegate something that you've been doing for a very long time, just listen to me, it will not be done as well as you did it, because you're you, at least initially. You have your own. It's like when you have someone come and clean your house the first time, you're always like, well, I don't know that they got the baseboards that great. You know what I mean? But eventually you realize, but I don't have time to do all these things. So having someone else do it, even if it's, 20% less efficient or 20% less effective or whatever, that's okay. And if you spend enough time working with whoever that is, whether it's your kids doing the chores or your husband now paying the bills or your wife now cooking, no, Brett, please don't do it. Certainly I don't speak for everybody with ADHD, but I personally have no business in the kitchen. For the love of God. I'm like intentionally not good in the kitchen because I don't want that responsibility. I know where I'm good. And it's not in that room. Whatever it is, work with the person until they get it. Whenever we bring on somebody new on our team, I really try to stay very, very connected to them for the first probably like 2 or 3 months until I know they know how I'm thinking. And it's complimenting the things that they're getting right. It's letting them know, not just here's, oh, no, do it like this. Don't do that. Instead, explain why. Explain your thinking. Explain your process. When on our team, and I know this is a little bit entrepreneurial, but I'm just going to tell you anyways, everybody on our team creates a screen flow of everything that they do. So whatever tasks they do, I have them create a screen recording using QuickTime where you can record your screen and you can record your voice. And the reason why I do that is because if you're gone and someone has to do your job, I want them to not just know how to do it, but I want them to hear you walking through the process and explaining your thinking, explaining why you do it this way. That makes it helps them to understand how maybe if someone takes over that responsibility, how they could maybe streamline it or improve it. Because, I do it this way because we've always done it that way is not a good reason. So I've made a master list of the people that we need to bring on. We're hiring a Team Johnson. Actually, I really like working with people who are consultants who have their own agency or their own business. I love working with freelancers now because, we travel. Like I feel like I'm a freelancer, and I like everyone on my team to feel like whatever it is they do, they own it. And it's fun. It's fun seeing members of my team who have been with me for a really long time just keep growing and growing and growing into new roles and growing into exciting new avenues. Like I know everyone's all freaked out about AI, but if you're the kind of person who knows how to like take tools and learn new things, it's just going to make you more effective. We're never going to be able to replace creativity and empathy and who we really are. And AI is exciting because it does save a lot of time and it can really improve processes, but it'll just make you more effective. So use it to your advantage so that you're, as an employee or as a consultant or as a business owner, like AI is a cool thing. Yes, of course, it could be scary, but it's like for me, I'm using it now to help me do research or at least organize my notes when I do podcasts. I've got some great podcasts coming up for you guys too, by the way. But anyways, I made this master list. You make the master list, identify those things that you don't like doing, and you really do need to give those to somebody else, right? And then you identify things that you want to do, and then you figure out where are we missing some people? What do we need to outsource? And I mean this, you guys have heard past episodes where I've talked about the Inez factor and how I'm very, very transparent about the fact that when our kids were little and we were trying to grow all these businesses and do all these things, the one thing that I knew I could not outsource and I wanted to do a lot of was spend time with my kids, to be present with them, to go to their games, to be there when they got home after school, to be there on the weekends. And so because we were so busy with business, I couldn't be a great domestic goddess and also building this business and also a great mom. So I had to delegate something. So I outsourced cleaning, organizing the house. And we had someone who came in and cleaned the house. I call it the Inez factor, once a week. Sometimes, actually, in the beginning, it was 3 times a week. I know this sounds crazy and maybe you've heard this story, but let me just tell it very quickly that when we brought in Inez to clean the house, we were broke. Like we were so broke. It was like a desperate attempt by Brett to like help me break free from what I felt was like destination procrastination, which was a pile of dirty laundry on the couch, or I should say a pile of clean laundry on the couch, that just a mountain of it that I didn't have the time to fold. It was all the things in the house that I felt like I needed to do in order to be a good mom, that until those things were done, I couldn't start working on work. Well, if I'm not working on work, then we weren't making money. So he was like, literally, let me just bring in somebody. Let's hire someone just, a couple of days, like 3 hours a week. I'm sorry, 3 hours a day, 3 times a week. And, because that'll get all of our laundry caught up. And he's like, we can find someone who's like a mom and we can pay them like, someone will want this job minimum wage. People want jobs. I'm like, all right. So we did. We hired somebody. And under the guise of like, if this doesn't help us to become more productive and start making more money, then we'll just do it for a couple of weeks. And so we hired her under the guise that, this is just for a couple of weeks, 3 days a week. And then, once we kind of get caught up, then we'll, maybe we'll do like once a month or something. No, let me tell you, that is a freaking game changer. I know you think I'm crazy right now. I'm telling you, having someone come in multiple times a week is the secret. Because then it doesn't get to that place where you're like constantly cleaning before the person who comes to clean your house, and you're not feeling like you're buried under a mountain of things you need to do in your home. And trust me, I understand that you might not be in a situation where you can afford to do this right now. I get it. We weren't in a financial situation from, looking on the outside, looking in, to be that where we could afford to do this. But yet I also knew we couldn't afford not to do it because I wanted to grow the business. And having someone come in 3 days a week when the laundry was washing, she had nothing to do. So she cleaned. So think about this. The house never got messy. All the clothes were put away. All the socks had matches and they were rolled up in these cute little arrangements. All the shirts were lined up according to sleeve length and color. All of my kids' clothes were clean. The refrigerator was clean. My bra drawer looked like Victoria's Secret. It was like, I can't even tell you what that did to my brain. Everything got calmer. Everything was less confusing. All the clutter was gone. And that would not have happened if we had hired someone, which, a lot of people have someone who comes in to do that in their home like once a month. But then 4 days later, it looks like a bomb went off. And then you're stuck either taking care of all those things or just seeing it, and it just makes your brain want to explode. So whether it is your home, your office, your kids, whether it's, you and your partner, your roommate, set aside some time to figure out if you have taken on other people's roles and responsibilities and what things maybe somebody else should do so that it can free your brain. All right, I know that was kind of heavy. Let's talk about some of the fun stuff and interesting things that have happened this week because Brett went to Michigan. All right, so let's back it up. By the way, I love having chats like this. These are some of my favorite episodes to do. So thank you so much for, just listening. It's the greatest gift you can give someone is your time and to listen to. All right, let's talk about what's been going on. My favorite thing to do is just chat with you and be real with you because not enough people are real with us online. In fact, let's start with that, shall we? I went to a party, proud of myself. I'm now telling myself a different story and I'm trying to believe it. So I'm reading this book right now called Tell Yourself a Better Lie. I think that's what it's called. Anyways, she talks about how you have to start telling yourself the story that you want to be true. And she gave this one example that I was like, oh my gosh, that just turned things around for me. She said, instead of saying that you have social anxiety, tell yourself that you are just antisocial because that's the truth. She's like, or you could tell yourself a different lie. You could say, I actually love going into social environments. I love talking to people. I love making small talk. I love getting to know people. I love helping them feel more comfortable. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So I literally on my stories yesterday posted, by the way, God, what am I, like a hot mess? I am a hot mess right now. If you're watching on YouTube, I am in a baseball hat. I have workout hair. I am still in my workout. I've been marinating in this outfit for, you don't need to know how long because it's just not appropriate. And I'm looking around. I'm going to take you on a tour of the disaster that is this place right now because we're trying to pack up and get ready to go to Europe, first to New York, then to Europe. And Brett's not here this weekend. And here's something I figured out about myself. Please don't let me forget to go back to the thing about the party. All right, here's what I figured out about myself. No, I'm going to tell you what I figured out about myself later. Holy cow. Can you tell that my ADHD is spinning out of control today? I don't know if you guys know this now, but I'm super social now. Because that's just what I'm going to tell myself, that I'm super social. I love going to parties where I know no one. I love making small talk because it's a blessing. That's the new story I'm telling myself. So let's go back to the party. First, I have to tell myself that I want to go to the party. I want to have small talk. I am excited to go to a party with 75 other, successful women here in the Miami area and not know a single soul and engage in small talk. And I'm looking forward to it. I just kept telling myself that this week. And I started to have a little shift. Normally, I would find any reason to cancel. I would be anxious most of the day, but listening to this book has really helped me kind of practice changing that story because it's true. It's some of the things that we want to change about ourselves. It's just a story we're telling ourselves. doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. We're making it true or we're making it false. So the party was great. It was a good experience for me to do this. Interesting party. And there were a lot of women there who were over 40. I think probably the majority were over 40. Yeah. Easily. I'd say 80% of the party's over 40, 40s, 50s, even into 60s. One thing I noticed is that, because a lot of these women, I talked to them and we would exchange information like, it's just like the thing nowadays where you don't necessarily exchange phone numbers, but exchange Instagram names, handles. And so, you get someone's Instagram handle and I would just like put it in my phone, or I'd ask them to, I'd hand them my phone and say like, can you enter your Instagram handle? And I'd do the same on theirs. And then after the party, I was, going through this list of new people to follow and seeing who they are and how do they show up on social, all those things. I just have to say this, ladies, not everyone's doing this, obviously, at this party, but there's too many women, and it's primarily the over 40 crowd that is going bonkers with the filters. You've taken filters too far. You've taken the filters too far, because then when you meet someone in person and then you go back and look at their Instagram or their TikTok or whatever, you're just like, it's not the same person. This is literally not the same person. You can change your body and your face to look 15 pounds thinner and 15 to 20 years younger, and also just completely change the shape of your face. Like, listen, I'm all for a simple swipe that makes your skin look a little brighter. I'm all for a filter that just makes you look a little brighter. But these filters that change everything about you, like you're not doing yourself any favors. It can't make you feel more confident. It's going to make you more self-conscious, because then when you meet people, that they're going like, huh? Right? So at some point you have to come clean, unless you just want to be like an AI, a walking, like you're just artificial intelligence and no one's ever going to like see you again. Like, you got to stop doing that. I'm telling you, there's so many examples that I was just kind of shocked when I went and looked at their Instagram. And so here's what some people are doing. They're using a filter and then saving it to, I don't know, their camera roll, and then uploading it as a regular video so that you don't see the filter highlight. On Instagram anyways, they're going to tell you if this person's using an Instagram filter. But the way people are working around this is they're using filters sometimes in other apps. Like there's one I'll show it to you. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to show you. This is what I look like when I'm using the Bold Beauty filter. Okay, here's the before. This is me. Hello? Who's she? This will mess with your mind, because I want these eyes. I want these lips. But this is not me. I'm telling you, this will mess with your brain, because you're going to look at that and go like, oh, that's what I want to look like. That's the nose I want to have. Those are but you can't change the shape of your eyes. Well, I guess you can. People are doing this fox eye surgery, whatever. I'm just saying, like, it's fun to play with, but it really does mess with your head. And I have to tell you, this happened to me. Quite a few of the women were like, oh my gosh, I follow you online. You are so much prettier in real life. And I was at first like, what does this mean? Like, how should I take that? Right? They're like, oh my gosh, you're so much prettier than I thought. I'm like, oh, thanks. I mean, I didn't hear that once. I heard it like probably 3 times at this party. And then I realized it's because I don't use filters. And, it was at night and it was good lighting at the party. So it probably just, I don't know what it was. But anyways, it was a great group of ladies. I had a fantastic time. I'm not just saying this, like, I'm not just trying to recreate a story. I really had a fantastic time. I had a fantastic time getting to know people. People were asking questions, which is a thing for me. Like, I really, to be honest, am not a fan of small talk, but Tavian, the gal who I went with to the party, I was telling her how I really hate small talk. And she's like, you know what? I don't mind small talk. She goes, because it gives me a chance to sense somebody's energy and to figure out if I want to ask a deeper question, and I thought about that. That's a great point, because if you, as I often have in the past, jump right into a deeper question, then you're stuck in a deep conversation with someone who doesn't ask you any questions. So it's very one-sided, which isn't fun. And they might not be that interesting, and they might be a little off. Their energy might be off, right? So I did get in a few situations, because we had that conversation on the way home. I wish we had had it on the way there, because I think it would have helped. Because I did get stuck in just a few conversations where I was like, I don't want to spend more time with this person. Like, they're lovely, but like, this is just not an energy that I want to give to, spend time with, connect with. And I don't know if it's that, like I wasn't drinking or anything. I mean, not like, I guess what I'm trying to say, let me just friggin' say it. Sometimes people have either too much to drink, or maybe, and I don't know, but I feel like there's this like weird kind of vibe when someone's on some kind of I don't know, maybe it's an antidepressant and then they're mixing that with alcohol. I don't know, but it just doesn't feel like they're here. It's very weird. I can't describe it, but the energy is off. And I got caught in like two conversations where I'm like, this person isn't really present. And I don't know what's going on, but I would like to exit stage left and go have a nice conversation with somebody else. And eventually I got to, right? But I think part of the reason why I get stuck in those situations is because I don't like small talk. So I go for the juggler and I ask a like really deep personal question that isn't just a, oh yes, thank you. You know what I mean? Or no, it's like a long explanation. And so there I am with this person, and I'm just observing them and going like, I wonder if they know how kind of off they are coming across, And I did have this, I've said this before, but my pet peeve, and it happened like to the max. I'm going to tell you guys something right now. And hopefully this person never sees this video. Well, I don't care if they do. Who cares? It is what it is. I'm just going to tell the truth right now. So this person was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. The Turbo Jam Queen. And I'm like, and she's like, I am your biggest fan. Like, I follow you online. Your Instagram is hysterical. Oh my gosh, I love you. I followed you for years. We've got to get a video. And I said, okay. And so she immediately opens up her Instagram stories. And I really hate it when people do this, when they put you on their Instagram stories and they already know what they're going to say and what they're going to ask you. And then now you're suddenly being interviewed or something, except that what am I being interviewed for? And what do we do? Who are we talking? Like, I hate that. So she opens up her phone. She's like, hey, everybody, I'm here with Chalene, everyone, the Turbo Jam Queen, Chalene. Say hi to everybody. And I watched it back on her stories that like later that night. I didn't follow her until then. But I had to go follow her because I had to see my face. Because here's me. I mean, you can't see me right now, but you can just imagine my face. I was just like, and then she like launches off into like she's talking to a national audience or something. And she's like, okay, so Chalene, we're going to ask you, how do you feel about changing people's lives? I'm on Instagram. I'm like, yeah, well, and I'm already annoyed because she called me Chalene.
That's not my name. That's not my name. That's not my name. That's not my name.
My pet peeve is when someone says, I'm your biggest fan, and then they call me Charlene. Who is Charlene? Chalene. Like, I know it. I don't get annoyed when someone calls me Shailene. I don't. It's not Shailene, but it's, and then they always say, well, I'm from Boston. Well, it's still, even in Boston, my name is not Shailene. Chalene, like Celine Dion, like shut the door, like Shelly, like, like why is this so hard? It's mom and dad. I'm happy you named me this. But anyways, so that was an awkward moment. And the filter thing was just an observation. If you look at Gen Z, they don't do filters at all. Well, some do, but most of them don't. And that's a good thing, because it really can mess with your brain. So there's that. Also, I think it's really important if you do go to parties, like don't drink so much that you can't remember what you were saying the next day. It's not gorgeous. Getting the invite to this party was actually the perfect time too, because Brett had gone back to California this week. He got to see his dad, got to see his mom, and he took Monkey back, who is going to be staying with my mother-in-law, Debbie, while we are in Europe. I miss her already. You guys, she's so cute with her new little haircut. Like she is, I don't know, this dog has 9 lives. She is so cute, and I already miss her, but like I asked you many times before, do not let me get another dog, okay? Okay. And things like that could happen on a weekend like this where I was by myself. Here's what I've learned about myself. I think I would have had a completely different trajectory. My whole life would be so different if I wasn't married. I wonder if there's ever been any studies. I wonder if it's true that people with ADHD are more likely to be in relationships because you're like a boat that just gets caught up in whatever the current is, and you could be like crashing into the rocks or out in the middle of the sea in a huge storm. Like you need an anchor. And I realize that I cannot even deny how much of an anchor Brett is for me for like everything. Like when he's gone, I am a different human being. I thought that I made my bed every single day. Like again, he left this weekend and I didn't make the bed even once. Showers are too infrequent. I get totally lost in like when he walks into the room, then I'm like, oh, what should I be doing? You know what I mean? Or he'll be like, hey, why don't we go do whatever. And it helps me avoid having time blindness. When he's not here, I have no bedtime. I have no wake time. And I have no way of estimating time. So without a doubt, like I had so many big plans for this week. I'm like, he's going to be gone. I'm going to get so much work done. I'm going to be months and months ahead by the time he gets back. And I just sometimes spin like a top. I realize he's a very important piece. He's that anchor. He's that like that routine. Like he's that reminder. And when you have ADHD, you need a lot of reminders. You need physical reminders. You need physical triggers. Of course, depending on the type of ADHD you have. But I mean, like if I was single for, the majority of my life, I don't know what I would be doing. I can't imagine. This would not be my career. It isn't. I don't know what it would be, but I have a feeling I would like probably adopt 5 dogs in one day. Like just these things that get my attention and get me really excited, and there's no one there to put the brakes on is a scary kind of thing, So he was supposed to be back tonight, but his flight got canceled. And of course he had to go through the whole thing. And everybody in the airport was freaking out because it was Memorial Day weekend. So he'll be back early tomorrow morning, which means I've got another night to kind of clean up the house and hide who I am. He has no idea that for 28 years, I have been pulling the wool over his eyes. He does not know who he's married to. He's literally married to like a bachelor. I mean, right now I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Okay. Admittedly, I've already cleaned up. I started to clean up and then I remembered that I told you I was going to show you the mess. So like this is it after I've been straightening up for, I don't know, probably 20 minutes. See what I'm saying? Like it's a lot of chaos. Let's just take a look. Let's just take a look at the chaos. Shall we? I mean, what in the nail glue kind of hell? I mean, of course, as you remember, we had to move out of the bedroom because the round bed was so bad. So I've been sleeping down. Have I made my bed once? No. Look at this. I mean, look at this situation with this paper up on the windows. I mean, I can't wait to be out of this place. Such a mistake. I mean, there are some great parts about it, but like, Okay, yeah. So that's the reality of Chalene home alone. It's already better than what it was because I thought he was coming home tonight. So I cleaned the kitchen for the first time in 3 days. And there were like crumbs on the floor and like sticky stuff. I don't even know what it was. Dishes in the sink and clothes friggin' everywhere, towels on the floor. I'm like, who lives here? A 12-year-old boy? Who am I? So I don't even know who I really am, to be honest. But because he's not coming home until tomorrow, now I've got some time to like put everything back together, and he'll walk in and I'll be showered and I won't have a hat on and the house will be clean and it'll smell good because those are all the things he likes. And my car will have a full tank of gas and I will be packed, almost fully packed and ready for a trip. That I'm kind of proud of. He won't know any different. I'll be like, hello. Like, it's just all a facade, but he's fallen for it. Hook, line, and sinker for the last 28 years. So please do not tell him the truth. I also, while he was gone, got to like binge all of my favorite reality TV shows. And I know everybody and their brother is talking about Vanderpump Rules. And I was a big Vanderpump. I love reality TV. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I hadn't watched Vanderpump in several years. I'm not sure why. I don't know. It just was like silly. Like, wait, these people don't work at this restaurant. Why are we pretending? But then there was the Scandival scandal, or the Tom Scandival scandal. And so if you don't know, well, you know, because everybody was talking about it. It made like national news. And that's what I don't get. I'm like, it's a show about a big group of friends who've all hooked up with each other. Well, how is this news? They're like 40-year-olds and older, and they act like they're 21-year-olds. Like they act the same way they did. Not all of them. Like some of them are great, but it's just funny to me because they've all slept with, like, it's 6 degrees of separation. They've all kind of either got on the show because they, had an affair with someone else who was on the show, and that's how they did it to get on the show. And then, to stay on the show after they broke up with that person, and they started kissing and making out with this person. It's just like, so why is this even news? But I did, of course, watch the reunion. The reunion? Yeah, the reunion and the finale. First I watched the finale, then I watched the reunion. And I got to tell you, it's so freaking funny. Like the drama of it all. Anyways, I just am not at all clear why everyone is still talking about this. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Patreon is running a special right now. I don't know if this is something they're going to do periodically. As long as I've had a Patreon, they've never done this before that I'm aware of. They now have you can join for free if you've never been a Patreon member. You can join for free for 7 days. Now with my Patreon, that means you can join the top tier and you can binge the past episodes. That's kind of crazy. It's really kind of crazy. So if you've ever like thought about it and you're like, I don't know if that's something I would like. If you're listening to this right now, you definitely would like Patreon because it's much more intimate. It's much more personal. In fact, this week, I actually recorded my therapy session and put the whole session almost the whole session, part of it cut out, on my Patreon, because the week before I went through my notes and kind of walked everybody through the things that I'm working on with my therapist. And I was so surprised that people were like into it. I'm like, okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like too close to it. I'm also a little frustrated with my therapy right now. My brain tells me like, this is a waste of time. But I've been reminded that when my brain tells me that, that's also me trying to protect something about myself that I don't want to change. Like change is hard. And admitting fault, admitting places where you need to work, things you need to work on is hard. And so I don't know how much of what I'm experiencing in the pushback that I'm kind of giving my therapist, and you'll hear it if you're just, if you're not on Patreon, hello, you should just at least do the 7-day free trial so you can go listen to my therapy session. And it's very interesting the way he kind of keeps pushing me. And I keep saying, I just don't know that I need to change this about myself. I like it this way. But he's got me intrigued. He's got me pegged, I think. So I can't believe how many, I posted it like a couple of hours ago, and there's just like all these comments, which leads me to a question I wanted to ask you. So I always look at how many comments are under each YouTube video and under each Patreon episode. My Patreon peeps, like, that's a very connected group. And YouTube, sometimes you're just going to get random people who watched it, aren't regular listeners of the show or whatever. But here's something I've noticed, and I want to get your opinion. So wherever you listen, if you could comment, that would be great. I notice that when I have a guest on, it doesn't matter who the guest is, those shows don't do as well. Even if it's a killer guest, great information, even when it's been someone like super famous, and they don't even have to be famous, but someone who's like was really, really insightful, was such a good show. Those shows just don't do as well. But it doesn't make sense to me because, like, I only know so much about so many things. I mean, I can always like report on what experts say to you, but it would seem that, I don't know, maybe you're just like, don't worry about doing the interview, Chalene. Other people are better at interviewing. That's possibly part of the problem. I don't know. Is that it? And I'm willing, just trust me, you will not offend me at all. Do I need to be a better interviewer? Is it you just don't come to me for interviews, or do you just prefer content just from me? Like, tell me what it is, because this is your show. You are the executive producer. You get to decide what you want more of, what you want less of. And I really do listen. I would love to have additional guests on, but it is a lot of work. It's so much easier to just show up. And, if you want Brett on more often, I can do that too. Or if you just want me, we can do that too. Like, I would be sick of it, but maybe you just like hanging out. And I get that too, because there's a couple of podcasts I listen to where they don't have guests, and I like their voice. I'm not always like paying like close intention. I'm not taking notes or anything like that. I feel like I'm hanging out with them, and they keep me. It's almost like a routine. It's a habit. I look forward to hearing their voice. I look forward to hearing their thoughts and perspectives. I don't have to always agree with everything. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. And maybe I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of different opinions, but I would really like to hear yours. That would be really helpful. So I'll try to pin a comment in Patreon at the top under this episode, and I'll pin a comment on YouTube, and I'll pin a comment in the Pod Squad so that I can see your responses underneath that pinned comment. So please go to the pinned comment wherever you're listening and let me know your thoughts on this subject, because it is helpful to me. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to invite you to take a listen to the last Lifer episode that I did with Brett. People always say like it's 1,000 times funnier when Brett is on. Someone will always say, I'm Brett and my husband is you, Chalene, or like vice versa. I love hearing those kinds of things. In this previous episode, it's pretty funny. It's a Lifer update. And we also not only talk about the house, but if you're watching on YouTube, we actually kind of take you on a tour of this place in Miami that we're staying. We're not buying this house. We still have not yet figured out where we're going to live. Thank you for your suggestions. We definitely think Florida. Yeah, I mean, not permanently, but 6 months. Anyways, you know all that. Anyways, I just want to say thank you so much for watching here on YouTube. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for responding to the pinned comment right at the top. I'm just very, very grateful that you're here. I love you. I mean it. And I'll talk to you soon.